57. Conventional, mere TNT by the ton explosives, as opposed to nuclear million-ton TNT equivalent force kabooming out of little pieces of radioactive metal that your grandmother could carry in her suitcase, actually have killed 1,000 times more than the Japanese atom bomb's 1947 total. Let's you and I trace most every explosive weapon's legal or illegal sale right through to its final murder detonation, because 8 billion others totally ignore this story, despite its dominating our last 10 millennia through doomsday tomorrow. Let's tell the truth, denied by every fool who spit up taxes to buy soon enough their own murder, but offers not a peep of complaint. Weapons nobody needs kill us in war and by private murder too. The same raging emotions, actually far less likely without any one finger, one trigger, flying monster explosives, would occasionally seize hammers and steak knives for handfuls, not hundreds of millions to 8 billion killings. War is weapons. Now, let's back up from massive, unrestrained by significant law World Death Incorporated, just one more step to war's genesis. Initially, small war companies pay elected leaders campaign victory cash to steal our money to buy so much as to explode the weapons companies' profits and the wars they force both 1,000-fold. Very few power nations' leaders do not privately profit and extend career power by this kill-for-cash politician theft from us of our money, well-being, and future. If not quite to the full extent of the 1960s American commercial and politician weaponeers, all 535 legislators taking bribes from a single weapons merchant to appropriate it up to the richest contract murder business in world history. Not to mention the direct enough killer of millions more civilians than the number 2 corporate slaughter competitor. Their haul peaked at 78 cents of every American tax dollar. Legislators appropriate our taxes for environmental cleanup until the fossil fuel companies bribe them to cut both funds and regulations. American weapons murdered 15 million, mostly civilians, in 250 wars over 75 years after the World Wars. We often fueled both sides of. A couple dozen more world weapon manufacture and export nations slaughtered another 15 million. Evil, you must stop. Who writes and voices speeches demanding that you outlaw the first 2 mighty links of weapons chain reaction? 1, all the bribery, and 2, most all of the weapons and attack armies? One little loudmouth. Another million military apologists and promoters, passing themselves off as factual analysts, find deeply impressed publishers to boom their scheming, advancing, directing, and enabling war prosecution to victories of good guys over enemies. All 100% responsible for the mega-death, of course. Their wars never to be stopped or even reduced, just manipulated for chosen winners' advantage. Smart politics, commerce, bribery, and tyranny by other means. Will they publish thousands more and ignore the single voice in the wilderness? At least until another dozen mega-conventional wars thus plotted spark nuclear doomsday, of course. Then each weaponeer and publisher enabler CEO will see the white flash and mushroom cloud from their glass-walled 60th floor boardrooms and whirl around to the young secretaries and horrified mothers who silently mouth, "I told you so," into the fast-growing, approaching roar. Oops, we asked for it. We got it. 60 seconds to live, not enough time to call the equally doomed wives and children. Back to the senator's bribe for the crystal clear quid pro quos. Appropriate billions of your taxes directly for those companies' federal contracts to sell weapons to every citizen whose purchase was chosen for them by representatives who don't. In total trillions, mostly for certain future civilian murder, finally including the funding sucker's family, for God's sake. Do it every important floor vote, or every next campaign cash dollar is yanked over to your very next opponent from either party. We buy 'em both. 5-1 TV argument against you ends your career. Our new winner, early in his rich campaign, promising us reattachment of the weaponeer politician puppet strings that you stupidly cut. Dozens of the biggest power nations mostly have developed giant munitions industries, heavily financing not at all public leaders who ever continue their commercially coerced, permanently huge war appropriations through even every blessedly brief blip of armed truce. Then every bucks from battle schemer planting bears decades more poisoned fruit. As let's quote, "Watch our seed money explode arsenals worldwide, likewise booming everyone's ambition, aggression, profits, hatred, fear, and weaponized conquest, revenge, and defense, all sparking the next 100 slaughters, baby. Machine runs itself. Ha ha ha!" Often I remind you that personal payments to politicians, including campaign cash they made laws to keep themselves when they retire, in return for official acts, have landed thousands worldwide in jail for all other gifts, identical felony bribery. Just let's pretend and build the giant deadly loophole that selling your career to murder up to 8 billion is legal. Not like I'm yelling for brand new law. Just enforce the ban of bribery of public servants to harm us for private profit. Ads purchased with said bribe money 96% win elections against challengers unable to mount equal public debate time. Obviously also determine the war propaganda capture of the population majority. The message: since our weapons plus hate fomenting of world war, a planet full of enemies have exploded to the moon, all grown mega hate, weapons, and armies now coming for us, especially after our murdering millions of their non-combatant women and children for 70 years. In the American 1960s, Democratic and Republican ads both warned the viewers that opposing worldwide socialist and communist liberation movements against our dozens of military junta client friends would either get 78 cents of our every tax dollar, or all dictator sons of bitches that proxy warriors half-kidded were our sons of bitches would get their asses kicked flight in a falling 12,000-mile row westward until the fattened commie monsters would finally paratroop into Topeka, Kansas to swarm 50 states like cockroaches to rule the world. The famous domino theory, word for word. I've got pretty fair talent, folks, but not nearly enough to make this stuff up. Goldwater in 1964 howled that we needed him to nuclear bomb 20 times the mere 2 million LBJs pipsqueak 5,000 and 20,000 pounders were slaughtering. Well, voters decisively rejected the nuke freak, and 4 years later, a peace movement retired Lyndon Johnson. So American humanity was far from propagandized dead. Hope for the world? No. Richard Nixon won with a lie, a secret plan to end the sick, stupid war. Instead, he slaughtered 500,000 more Vietnamese and 20,000 more Americans until his own impeachment and resignation for about 1% of the corruption that I beg you to outlaw. Finally, our last diplomats were helicoptered off the Saigon embassy roof under Viet Cong gunfire. The victors descended from thousands of years of rebels repeatedly throwing out every invading army of the Chinese monster. People fight like hell for their own homes. Have I given you the impression that weapon-fueled war is 100% weaponeers' bribery of national legislators to buy dozens of foreign nation invasions? No, the companies also closely monitor and crush the faintest flicker of government regulation of corporate war exploders to at least stop direct foreign sales to hundreds of worldwide national governments and every militia of any stripe just sending them the money, honey. 1,000 have told me, you'll never stop war. It's human nature. Horseshit! You will stop war with a few simple laws against selling it. 99.5% of human prehistory with deadly enough weapons, but no taxes stolen to buy slaughter of 1 billion, was heavenly peace. Not one weapon-hacked human bone found. The business of national government is business, lied the Constitution's savaging perpetrators. No, the business of democracy is self-rule of all for our safety and care. Meaning kick soulless business conspirators the hell out of public service and government. Or else humanity is fully destroyed by their private theft of our public money and care. It took me 20 hours to explain, confront, and demand your legal destruction of destruction. Are you coming around or what? Now, let's discuss how entire enemy population hate grows to the total war on civilians that military governments have always inspired since attackers ringed defending cities' walls for months, avoiding bloody invasion conquest to just starve every woman and child enemy devil to death, or force their leaders' surrender to invite their execution, whichever came first. And why not catapult in disease-exploding corpses to hurry things along? Major armies with money, ambition, and hatred motives steadily twist former human beings into horns and pitchfork sadistic devils we've known for 10,000 years. And only one nutball yells, "Stop this by law," to restore any humanity at all. That's mighty scary. But we're not done until you refuse to double the sanity. Right? You think I'm whining about medieval savagery civilized away centuries ago? Then turn the video game back to CNN. In October of 2023, Hamas invaded Israel for little more than one day to slaughter 1,200 civilians in strangely undefended border towns, adding mass rape and kidnapping to the fun. They paraded female prisoners with bloody crotches. My treaty teaches us all humanity. Negotiate it. Understandably, every Jewish leader and commander immediately planned to eliminate Hamas leaders and troops in Gaza to rule out another such barbarous attack forever. But the IDF invasion for months totally avoided going after the perps. Not easy with them and 230 hostages in tunnels, of course. Instead, thousands of monstrous bombs, mostly American, have killed 30 times their own losses, nearly all civilian dead and wounded also. I focus on the last century's most lethal tens, hundreds of civilian millions slaughtering great powers. Several more after 10 martial millennias, 14 killingest empires. I don't do this to attack men most evil, even if some were genetic XYY aggressors, but because I beg you to lawfully take their dirty money and mega weapons away. Have I told you that warriors must lie to keep power? Israeli spokesmen chosen for sincere TV faces tell the world that only precision munitions land on identified Hamas targets after millions of civilians were ordered to flee first. That most could not, because monstrous bombs kept blasting escape routes, was not mentioned. The world's densest population lay under the Israeli Defense Forces' stupidly released videos of thousands of American 2,000-pounders, each obliterating multiple city blocks of 8-story civilian apartment buildings. 35,000 Gaza besieged ran to huddle around a hospital without medicine or power, also siege-slashed, only to have many hundreds smeared into the ground by another enormous blast. 40 world cities, sure of the greatest Jewish bestiality yet, exploded. Actually, total proof of the cause arrived in less than 2 days. A non-Hamas Arab militia's Israel-bound rocket launched nearby suddenly, accidentally veered down onto the unlucky crowd. Radio intercepts of the militia launch crew shouting about the accident in real time were followed in minutes by commanders ordering all to shut up, so storytellers could proclaim to an already rightfully enraged world that Israel bombed the crowd. Propaganda to roar new enemy attacks on Israel from 1,000 miles around. How easy was that? After weeks of similar civilian slaughter, the IDF bombers had blasted that very hospital only days before. Now, Hezbollah from Lebanon readies their Iran-supplied 400,000 rockets. Iran promises their national military attack if Israel's ground attack commences, as already certain to. And American World War III force steams close on carriers to blow the war worldwide. Or, no, we'll only attack to stop more attackers. Right. Is Russia too busy to join in? We'll see. I don't tell true stories portending doomsday to depress you, but to activate you. Explode to 1 billion helpers to stop it before the first 100 H-bombs blow. Then run and hide. War is an octopus. Greed, power, hate, and bigotry from the head, direct arms of bribery, conventional and nuclear arms races, every attack avenged by another, most populations and governments locked into days, years, centuries, millennia's more slaughter. In between about 10% of all the lovely civilization achievements that would have been enjoyed, the love, prosperity, and quality of world warless life. But only if enough angry, loving survivor reformers had long ago instituted the simple laws I demand that you do now. Why didn't they? Well, their best excuse over past millennia was, it ain't like universal doomsday is imminent without universal disarmament. Oh, Steve's new modern deadly theme. Now you see your invaluable duty. History teaches me. I tell it for you to learn from. Ignore it no more. I once theorized that from the Big Bang, the universe is merely Newton's law. From every action, an opposite, equal reaction. Chain reaction to every single galaxy's burnout. All of our loveliest actions no less preordained. The million techno-species, every love conquers all good day ended when uranium and oil deposits everywhere let us live until we failed to halt double doom by law. Then global warming and nuclear winter killed everyone. No, not everyone. Those 1940s and 50s 1,000 flying saucer sightings over the White House, Roswell, nuclear missile silos, and hundreds of other American locations evidenced a fairly close star journey from one civilized planet's booby trap unsprung by hard law, not ridiculous luck. The visitors telegraphed, "We ended war, so must you." A tiny ship careened through giant lightning bolts over Roswell. Fear, hope, and love flared in 8 giant black eyes. Then 1 more million-volt bolt slammed the tiny ship to the stony ground. Possibly the very same one spotted over the White House and above 5 megaton hydrogen bomb missile silos. 77 total World War and environment wrecking years later, only one single man shrieks for your love laws. I'm nearly that old. While I die, you'd better listen. When the lone wolf is gone, you must soon multiply to 1 billion yous to save the one world, which is your entire support system. The universe of mass but tragically brief life is not an automatic or evil machine, only a frightfully dangerous place in which only the actively, supremely intelligent, ethical, lawful, and publicly, not just privately loving and caring, can long survive and thrive. The God of love grows minds and hearts in a very few planets species that remember his life laws programmed into every animal and more advanced creature. Learn from your world of danger an opportunity to defend against every danger, to win your survival, while loving yourselves and helping your living community as far as you can see, because except for the carnivore's hunt, United and peaceful you stand, but divided and warring you fall. Hunter-killer carnivores don't love all alive and are conditioned to aggression. But then we're only utterly corrupted to mass murder by technology uncontrolled by law. But with public love law, we are fully capable of building thousands of high-tech millennia's heaven on earth and every other planet. Just Alpha Centauri's little gray aliens revealed God's plan. Little islands of legal public love that reversed the oil, uranium, anarchy telomeres that depopulated the foolish million worlds. Those few sagacious survivors will sail out to teach another million worlds to one far day flourish in a new universe full of wise, organic, pulsing, living love, regardless of any harp music later entertaining fleshless, floating, eternal spirits. Or heaven on any earth will never happen. Why not? Because you just sat down and shut up. Love, active helping of others is life, your only life. Apathy finalizes incurious ignorance, brief selfishness, then eternal darkness. Certainly not life, ever loving and lasting. While most of the world ignores the thousands bombed to death in Gaza, demonstrators also went online with the unintended power of the apathetic. Silence is violence. I add, bought with your money. Most all of us apparently believe in the universal automatic death machine, as I once did. Now you and I can plan and make our choice to act for long, lawful life of our human world around, all soon needed to help us live. Until now, no interdependence theorist knew the half of it. If you'll recall, I'm 20% love inspiration and 80% screaming bloody murder. So back to my meat and taters. Weapons and armies definitely, certainly grow and blow until doomsday by chain reaction of finance, hatred, propaganda, revenge, world weapons business metastasis, and anti-ethical evil that you must attack every link of with 20% inspired persuasion and 80% hard specific law. Here's what happens always on our highway to hell while billions of yous don't do shit about it. Explosive chain reactions not only blow TNT and uranium bombs, but also automatically fly through human finance and military buildups from bribery to the decades, hundreds of invasion wars, bullets, and blasts. Death merchants and politician puppets planned every Vietnam War explosion from the 1950s to the 70s. They decided in advance for giant foreign wars to keep the millions of bombs bought and booming. Quick victories most unprofitable. The plan: keep American military might testing and flexing to flow trillions of dollars for thousands of military industrial complex contracts for endless war stalemate resupply of bullets, shells, bombs, and vast new generations of ever more lucrative, entirely new weapon systems, not just ammo and busted weapon replacement, into 250 other wars that we created, joined, or always magnified and extended. Most of just one war's murder total of America's 2 million Vietnamese, nearly all civilians blasted from village homes into smithereens. Not a damn one or soldier, all 11,000 miles away, had ever fired one bullet at home defending Americans. The only necessary self-defense excuse for ever using lethal force against another human. This war's objectives were defeat of communist revolution against American world military dominance and weaponeers' profits. Its big start required the lying pretext that a North Vietnamese gunboat attacked one of ours, flouting our Constitution's requirement that citizens only may begin American war with our representatives' full declaration. A Gulf of Tonkin resolution was rammed through Murder Incorporated's bought Congress, authorizing our military to avenge the 2 made-up sailors' deaths with unlimited killing all over Indochina in perpetuity as it suited us. Just no constitutional declaration of war, because voters would remember it at election time if the war went as long and badly as intended. Illegal fraud, whined most of America. What are you going to do about it, democracy dreamers? You think we answer to you? After we punch open the $30 trillion cash register? Ka-ching! All that love, responsibility, duty, and help you family queers beg of leaders too? Well, F you, we're taking money and power. 10,000-year tyranny. Who ends it? Nobody but you. Murderers for money propped up decades of Vietnam's military dictators and dozens more across the world for the century. South Vietnam's juntas tyrannized a population always 80% supporting the socialist communist revolution that eventually won when 70% of America finally screamed, "Enough!" After 58,000 Americans and 2 million Vietnamese killed, multiples wounded. Next was an Iraq invasion on a similar 100% lying pretext. We paid $1.5 million to an Iraqi con man to fabricate evidence of Saddam Hussein's chemical, biological, and nuclear bomb building for missiles aimed at American cities. Then up to multi-millions of Iraqi civilians were torn apart by our bombs for bucks bunch. Only wasted were 7,000 expendable Americans and a mere 1 million Iraqi slime. No big deal. Can't dry your tears with money, 'cause we took it all. American World War weapon death dealing racked up 15 million. Of 250 wars, 30 million killed. I focus on war holocaust caused by weaponeer license to steal taxes, then blackening leaders' hearts. To bring love and humanity back, outlaw evil military power opportunity. Every war begins as a 3-horsepower lawnmower. Once in a blue moon, tragically blade smacking a nail 100 feet into an old man's heart while sunning on his porch. Then the war supply business buys all the politicians empowered to spend 1/4 of entire nations' private incomes, who then immediately buy and deploy thousands of 7-foot, 300-horsepower riding mowers, feeding bushels of nails into 5,000 RPM blades. Giant cities of Port Sunners suddenly blood geyser their last 30 seconds. Next, buy years' worth of gasoline and drivers from company profits thousands of times greater than their bribe investments, good enough for their small-time politician puppets. Easy analogy, 'cause my whole book tells you hundreds of the real-life stories. You'll hear plenty more to keep you real mad and real busy. Ukraine is a 10-year frontline slug headed for second-decade million-slaughter stalemate, just like today's 48 other 15-nation, 40-company kill-for-cash, monster-by-design wars that you allow, asswipe. The alert listener confronts me. Steve, Russia's Putin launched and prosecuted a decade of illegal invasion butchery. The West defends Ukraine because Vlad would ruin every square mile and enslave all if we didn't. Yes, now and then a solid weapons supply aids a righteous defense. But enough to drive him back to Russia launches European and world nuclear war. And 100 times any war begun always grows from the commercial, double-sided war sales cabal. Check your history. So-called enemy companies are actually great pals, feeding each other. Their real enemies are any activist resistors who would rescue both populations with peace law, cutting off the thieves' tax gravy. FYI, when I fall from a 30th floor window, everybody will know who pushed me. Now, the horrific new Mideast war. For generations, America has poured annual multi-billions in invasion tank and aerial family smasher giant bomb technology into Israel just for the slaughter now underway. Our president just spoke from the Oval Office demanding another $100 billion for his weapons company donors. Yes, Ukraine and Israel were unjustly attacked and must defend themselves. I'm just telling you that the corporations who dictate to almost every government will fully obstruct all possible peaceful solutions, just as they converted post-World War demobilization and international planned disarmament to 100-year conventional and nuclear arms racing and hundreds of commercial wars, now 90 seconds from doomsday. America gave and sold the 70-year Palestinian land occupier, hated by 2 billion Muslims, the force inevitably booming their tyranny into the savage counterattack by Palestinian terrorists supplied by Russia and Iran, ceaselessly delivering hundreds of thousands of rockets and automatic weapons into seething Gaza, the West Bank, and Lebanon, to the PLO, Hamas, and Hezbollah, each planning essentially their only conceivably liberating alternative, war against an oppressor who surges farther away every year from the only solution 180 nations scream for: Palestinian self-rule over land they currently lose more of every year. Self-rule in return for small military security and peace guarantees from formerly over-militarized enemies become 1,000 times less dangerous and more tolerant, allowing both parties to become equal independent nations, not parent abuser and child victim. But no peace ever lasted over 5 minutes without legal destruction of weapons and their goddamn assembly lines. Bring clubs, switchblades, brass knuckles, and zip guns to the gang dance, where you'll promise to kiss and make up. No, everybody prepares with violent tools. Violence! Well, duh! I only pick on the giant military nations because they have for 10,000 years driven their corrupt game into most of the world's weaker nations, forced to compete, defend themselves, and physically, economically, and emotionally suffer along with much of war-torn earth, even the robbed, depressed, big-shot populations. Have you noticed that chronic warriors in every nation fanatically oppose every idea for a peaceful, just, accommodating, negotiated end to every contending side's citizen suffering? Proving that our war ain't to help you, it's only to enrich us grifters and explode us haters. Peace and prosperity for you? F that! No giant money, hate, glory, and power for our little gang in that. Only humanity. Boring. War profiteers and lovers want it and get it forever by bending all finance and law breaking to their scheme. Peace lovers and benefactors want power too, but can't work 60-hour politician and weapons company weeks. They're double overtime already devoted to private families plus their jobs. So our little fight will have to be incredibly efficient and exactly focused on breaking legal, political, and financial murder power. But no, we refuse to even begin bending law enforcement, finance, and international law to our disarmament and anti-bigotry education scheme. Why do you think my every word demands our enabling, our new power? Because for 10 millennia, peace dreamers, not actors, have remained 10% bully crippled, but 90% self-disabling. For all 10,000 tragic years, where were a million Steves yelling, "Stop abandoning your public care duty to conning, thieving killers. Take over, Rover." Constitutions demand self-rule, then 8 billion sheep can't be bothered. Well, I'm here now, the coach smacking your butt. Get out there! Israel then devotes weeks to dropping thousands of 2,000-pound blockbusters onto tiny but millions crowded Gaza. War leaders' deliberate wasting of many tens of thousands of civilians, if not many, of the actual enemy underground. Read any of thousands of historians who detail lavish use of every great arsenal ever built to slaughter 1 billion. And now, but competing nuclear arsenals are only to create perfectly safe, mutual assured destruction standoffs. Plus lots of scary bullying too. Lie, the profiteers. We're billions of times safer without them, obviously. As we keep, not ban them, a few years, maybe months longer. These millions of times deadlier, 17,000 miles an hour, unrecallable monsters will fast be entirely used. Just one difference: no survivors. The last single year featured large multiples more threats of and physical plans for nuclear mass use by a desperate, deranged tyrant than through the previous 75 years of serious enough danger. A Jewish outdoor concert goer and her young friend hid from Hamas hunting for kids to kill. One cut down her girlfriend in cold blood. She hid 3 feet away while he danced, laughed, and fist-pumped in triumph. He never spotted the survivor. Watching his bloodlust, she said, they were not human beings at all. There are now enormously armed, hate-filled terrorists active in scores of countries, a rarity only 50 years ago. People 100% nonviolent 10,000 years ago sadly once killed farmers for food. But only sudden military power plus freedom to take other people's money, hunting instinct perverted to military and financial technology greed, ever legally uncontrolled, made them evil. Today's savagery is identical, just ever worsened by technology of extinction and total anarchy of never laws against total military and corrupt financial power. Evil power wins, everybody assumes. No, your apathy permits the evil power to subjugate us when we could easily organize to confront and defeat it. Today, I know of not one soul outside my front door who has ever demanded that we break any links of Doomsday's Death Incorporated to bribed leaders buying and blasting chain of evil. A single loon crying, ban bullies, bucks, bombs, and battalions. I only sat through the same world, his story of patriarchs' 14 great empires, crushing 2 million years of matriarchs' loving leadership that you had to read and pass to get out of elementary school. The same story on CNN you watch 3 minutes a night between movies and video games. The U.S. Congress just passed $62 billion of Ukraine weapon resupply, on its way days after certain Senate endorsement. "Now we will win," shouted joyous Volodymyr Zelensky. 500 mushroom clouds you'll win, foolish friend. As you have long known, Putin's only option in defeat, he shrieked for 2 years, correct? Enough weapons destroy every single ethical, intelligent, self-interested brain cell in us all, with incredibly brilliant strategy and purpose from inanimate but fiendish objects. The purpose? Multiply me, use me against all life. Just 1 year ago, 50 world leaders denied Ukraine attack tanks, F-16s, and deep artillery, fully aware of the danger beyond safe optimum defense. All 50 today have 100% forgotten after another 12-month savagery pickled their brains. All you and I can do now is rush my speeches to the American Congress and American and Ukrainian presidents. In 1967, an American bomber pilot in Vietnam said, "We had to destroy the village in order to save it." Now we must insist that our elected Ukraine defenders save, not destroy Ukraine and the entire world, including their loved ones. Here's the nightmare I'm stuck in. Hours, days, years, I scream bloody murder at 8 billion sound asleep with sweet smiles on their faces, while extinction world news triples by the day. Am I the single, sickened, failed, ignored writer and audio speaker? I am if you quietly allow utterly corrupted leaders to roar us in a very few years to the truly automatic war triggers nuclear, drought removes water and food, survival failure, tipping points, past even the best citizen revolution, then too little, too late, billions of corpses, end of the world. I am one nobody, we can become 1 billion strong. Together we can boom bigger than the most famous nuclear H-bomb video ever. The 20 megaton, 1957, 10 miles in 1 second, red-white dome over Bikini Atoll. We're going to detonate our legal love bomb the necessary years and decades. 70 years of peace whiners and sign wavers always asked the business conspiracy to hand over its megadeth weapons to see the light. Pretty please, no plans to make you if you don't. Same with clean the air and finest water. More money in pollution than CO2 scrubbers? Ration dying lakes the last few years? Oh, well, you call the shots. We don't. Are you kidding? You've always plotted your family's well-being the necessary decades ahead. Stupid leaders wreck your future. So replace them and their insane laws, or lack thereof. CNN does relate a few appeals to reverse nuclear doomsday and attack global warming too. Pretty please. Now you must hear the Power Meister's answer. Gales of laughter. And when you finally reflect on his story's 10,000 years, 200 lifetimes of unending slaughter, you'll learn your lesson from the patriarchs themselves. The jury's in on the peace and survival pretty please begging strategy. Law, yours now. I know. I need to stop all my hemming and hawing and just tell you what I really think.